Coming up tonight on YCU News, learn about the Brattleboro Film Festival. Today, veterans across the country are being honored, and learn how you can help about disaster aid for the recent typhoon in the Philippines. For more news, weather, and sports, it's time for YCU, your local view.
Now, your daily digest of the Dartmouth Lake Sunapee region and central Vermont. News, sports, weather, public affairs, and all that's happening in our area. The news on YCU, your local view.
Good evening and welcome to the YCU News. I'm Lynn Solomon, filling in for Rose Spillman. Take an audio-visual trip off the beaten path this week. There's still time to catch a film at the Brattleboro Film Festival. The festival is now in its second year. Its mission is to present films and documentaries with themes that fall under the radar of mainstream movie producers. YCU News' Rose Spillman speaks with festival promoters to learn more.
I'm here with Lissa Weinman at the Latches Theater in Brattleboro, Vermont to talk about the Brattleboro Film Festival. So tell me a little bit about how the film festival got started.
Well, most of us used to work for the Women's Film Festival, and we wanted a larger festival, and they wanted a smaller festival, so we parted ways. And they continued to do the Women's Film Festival in March, and we have chosen the first couple of weeks of November for our festival. So most of us have worked together for many, many years, choosing films that often tend to represent stories that you don't normally see in mainstream media.
What types of films are usually screened at the festival?
Well, our film selection committee spends the whole year choosing films, the hottest, most current, best films from the international festival circuit. So they look at literally hundreds and hundreds of films before they decide on a roster of about 30 that include a mix of documentaries and feature films. So this year, for instance, we've got a terrific roster of dramatic features, some of whom will go on to receive or be nominated for Oscars. We have a pretty good track record picking Oscars winners and hopefuls.
What makes this festival special?
Well, I think it's the town of Brattleboro primarily that makes this festival special, because we have a very unique town, so it's a great pleasure to try to choose films that capture the creativity and spirit of Brattleboro itself. So when we look at films, we think about our audience, but we also think beyond Brattleboro, because so many people come here to have a good time, to participate in the arts, and we think the festival is going to grow and become more part of that.
Across the country, the nation's veterans are being remembered and honored for their military service. From the White House to the state houses in Concord and Montpelier, ceremonies are taking place on this Veterans Day to mark today's events, first known as Armistice Day. Many programs begin at 11 a.m. Armistice Day marked a break in the fighting between Europe and America against the German Army. That break happened on the 11th hour of the 11th day on the 11th month of the year 1918. It would be another 7 months before the Great War, which we now know as World War I, would officially end. U.S. Senator Jeanne Shaheen and Representative Ann McLean Custer spoke at the New Hampshire State Veterans Cemetery in Boscawen. Joining them were members of the state's National Guard and the New Hampshire Disabled Veterans. New Hampshire Governor Maggie Hassan also recognized veterans and those now in military service. Between Sunday and today, Hassan will have remembered veteran services and sacrifices at 4 ceremonies across the state, including Boscawen, Concord, Nashua, and Tilton, where the state's veteran home is. Hassan read a proclamation thanks to our brave veterans and service members. Hassan said, "Our country is safer and our freedom is stronger." Veterans Day offers all New Hampshire residents the chance to unite behind the men and women who continue to keep us safe from harm, said Hassan. In Vermont, similar Veterans Day ceremonies were held. U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders, who chairs the Senate's Committee on Veterans Affairs, said the nation must remember what it owes its veterans. The true cost of war goes beyond dollars and cents, Sanders says. Since World War II, more than 500,000 Americans have lost their lives in war, he says. The nation has a moral obligation to care for its soldiers. More needs to be done, Sanders says. Services and benefits to veterans have been expanded. More are needed, Sanders says in a press statement. Veterans Day is a special day, notes Sanders, yet a commitment to helping American veterans must happen every day. On a related note, veterans of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars may be helped by a national study on treating post-traumatic stress disorder. The Veterans Administration Medical Center in White River Junction, Vermont, is leading a national study comparing two methods to treat PTSD, reports the Associated Press. The study will include 17 locations across the U.S. $10 million has been earmarked for the federal study. The study is two-pronged. One medical focus will center on changing how soldiers view their wartime experiences through cognitive behavioral therapy. The other technique is to allow the soldier to re-experience the moments that are causing the emotional trauma and relearn how to process them. Leading the study is Paula Schnurr. She is the Deputy Director of the National Center for Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder at the Vermont Hospital. President Barack Obama has pledged financial support to the typhoon-ravaged Philippines, and contingents of the U.S. Marines are on the way. The Associated Press reports New Hampshire is involved in an effort to help storm victims. The Filipino-American Friendship Society is working to help relatives contact family members in the Philippines. There are between 500 and 700 Filipino-American families in New Hampshire. Fundraising to help with relief efforts is underway at area churches and businesses. To learn more about how you can help, contact the American Red Cross at www.redcross.org.
Tomorrow we'll have partly cloudy skies with a high of 36 and lows in the teens. Wednesday will be clearing up with mostly sunny skies with highs in the 30s and lows in the 20s. Thursday will be sunny with a high of 45 and lows in the 20s. Friday and Saturday will have highs in the upper 40s and lows in the upper 20s. It was championship weekend for several of our schools in the Twin State area along the Connecticut River. Saturday saw 3 local teams take to their respective fields for showdowns. The Sunapee Lakers, number 2 girls soccer team, traveled to Larkin Field on the campus of Southern New Hampshire University to take on the number 1 undefeated and high-scoring Woodsville Engineers. The story of this game was defense as the teams played to a 0-0 tie after regulation and 2 overtimes, leading the game to be decided in penalty kicks. After a goal stop by Sunapee's Chantel Cantor, Armstrong booted the ball for a 1-0 score after the first round. Again, Cantor met the challenge by Woodsville, followed by a kick into the goal by Courtney Donnells to make it 2-0. Woodsville started to make their mark with their first mark. Then, Taylor Usko matched that mark, making it 3-1. Then, Cantor denied the final Woodsville attempt for a championship score of 3-1. Congratulations to the Lakers for their upset of the undefeated Engineers. On Saturday, the YCU Game of the Week cameras were at a festive Barnes Park in Claremont, New Hampshire for the inaugural Division III Western Conference Championship game as the Stevens Cardinals hosted the Newport Tigers. Both teams ended their regular season with 6-2 records, with Stevens beating Newport 9-6 earlier this season. Early in the first quarter, Stevens quarterback Briar Rouliard hits Nate White for this 24-yard touchdown pass to put Stevens up 7-0. In the second quarter, Stevens workhorse running back Donald Pellerin scampers 19 yards to give the Cardinals a 14-0 lead. Just before halftime, Pellerin again gets loose for a 53-yard run. Pellerin would later score from the 1-yard line for a second of 3 touchdowns that day. In the fourth quarter, this Zach Brown fumble recovery and 53-yard touchdown run gave the Tiger fans something to cheer about as Newport gets on the board, now trailing Stevens 28-6. Newport ends its season at 6-3. The Newport vs. Stevens game will air this Sunday at 10:30 a.m. and 1 and 5 p.m. The third Saturday game was the Vermont Division III Football Championship at the Neutral Field in Rutland, as the number 1 Woodstock Wasps took on the number 2 Mill River Minutemen. After a disappointing first half, the Wasps had their work cut out for them, trailing 13-0. The defensive struggle on both sides held sway until Woodstock finally got on the board with 3:37 left in the third quarter, as Oliver Kaya made this 3-yard touchdown run. But the Wasps were denied the extra tally as they missed the point after kick. Their defense held tough, giving them the opportunity at 4:12 in the fourth quarter to tie the game up as Sam Cole made this 3-yard run and with the successful extra point pushed the game into overtime. Mill River took the ball first and made it 19-13, missing their point after. For a team that had scored 95 points in their 2 previous tournament games and had not lost in 31 gridiron matches, you had to think that they were going to make a game of it, and they did. Congratulations, Wasps, for another great season. On Sunday, the number 5 Sunapee Lakers boys soccer traveled to Bill Ball Stadium in Exeter to take on the number 3 Derryfield Cougars. The final score was 1-0, giving our Lakers the runner-up trophy and a pretty good finish for a number 5 seed. Congratulations. Later that day at the same venue saw the Premier Division I Boys Soccer Championship as the number 1 undefeated Marauders of Hanover took on the number 2 Broncos of Alverne. The strength of the Hanover team is illustrated by their only giving up 3 goals the entire season of 15 wins and 1 tie. Their defense stayed true to those numbers, with their offense coming through with a 30-34 mark on this nifty play, giving them a 1-0 lead. The defense battled strong, making way for this goal to make it 2-0, which would hold up for that final score in the New Hampshire High School State Championship. Congratulations to all our local teams for an outstanding weekend of high school sports.
I'm Lynn Solomon for YCU, your local view. Have a great night.